Good evening to whoever's watching today. Today I'm going to be reading a small passage from Epictetus' Discourse Fragments Handbook. It pertains to the natural laws, the divine laws, that most people would associate with God, and then our man-made concepts, structures, the stuff that only humans are responsible for. So I'm just going to read it, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about it. So I'm just going to get into it. It's Book 1, Section 13, or Passage 13, 1.13. How may everything be done in a way that is pleasing to the gods? When someone asked him how one can eat in a manner that is pleasing to the gods, he replied, and he is Epictetus, if one eats as one ought and politely, and indeed with temperance and restraint, won't one also be doing so in a manner that is pleasing to the gods? And when one has called for hot water, and the slave boy fails to respond, or if he does, brings it merely lukewarm, or if he isn't even to be found in the house, and one doesn't get angry or lose one's temper, is that not pleasing to the gods? But how can one put up with such people? Slave, can't you put up with your own brother, who has Zeus for his father, and is, so to speak, born of the same seed as you, and is of the same heavenly descent? Or because you've been stationed in a somewhat more eminent position, will you set yourself up all at once as a tyrant? Won't you keep in mind who you are, and who these people are whom you are ruling over? That they belong to the same family, that they are by nature brothers of yours, that they are offspring of Zeus. But I have a right of purchase over them, and they don't have any such right over me. But don't you see to where it is that you're directing your view? That is to the earth, to the pit, to these miserable laws of ours, the laws of the dead, so that you fail to have any regard for the laws of the gods. So that was just a brief conversation that Epictetus' student observed in one of his lessons. Basically just begins the conversation by talking about what is pleasing to the gods and brings up the slave. Like a man who doesn't get angry at his slave when the slave fails. That is temperance and restraint, and that is pleasing to the gods, to have control over yourself and your emotions. And the most important part was at the end, where he says, but I have the right to purchase this slave, and this slave has no right over me. And Epictetus says, you're having your view, you're looking at it the wrong way. That right of purchase, that owning of that slave, that's man-made. That's a law of the earth, a law of the dead, of us humans, of us miserable humans. We created this illusion of being able to purchase something. But that's not a law of God. That's not a divine law. We're brothers. That is the divine law. We all came from the same seed. We all were born into this world the same way. We're all children of the universe. That is the divine law. And so that was Epictetus differentiating between human law, a miserable law of the earth, and a law of the universe. And I think that's just super important, and it's one of my favorite passages in Epictetus because in day-to-day life we get so consumed and so concerned with man-made laws, like no jaywalking, you can't break a red light, all the laws that we've made. We're so concerned with those laws. You can't take drugs, don't do drugs because it's illegal. Stuff like, oh, you can't do that because it's illegal. We're so concerned with that. But then when it comes to breaking a divine law, like losing our temper or getting angry or giving into a vice, giving into temptation, breaking those divine laws that God has set for us, or for that the universe has set for us, that we know it is wrong. Deep down we know it's wrong. Breaking those laws, we don't even think about twice about it a lot. Most people don't even think that they're breaking a law. So my advice would basically just be maybe focus more on the divine laws than, obviously don't get yourself put in prison, because unfortunately, there are laws on this planet that will get you thrown into a cell. So don't ignore our man-made laws. A lot of them are there for good reason, but I just think it's wrong to put all your energy into obeying our laws, human laws, and to just ignore the divine laws. The Ten Commandments. People can't recite the Ten Commandments, but they can tell you, what's illegal and what you shouldn't do, in your car, or when it comes to drugs, or when it comes to other people, or when it comes to, money. All the illegal things around that, but no one even mentions the Ten Commandments hardly. They're not very concerned with breaking those, but they are concerned with breaking our man-made laws. And I think there should be at the very least concern or equal concern for both. Obviously, a little more for the divine laws, but yeah, that was just, I wanted to read a part of Epictetus and explain what it was. Even though, I mean, you can pretty much understand what he's saying. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. I hope you enjoyed. If you disagree or agree, you can leave it in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. Because I'm one man's opinion. I'd love to hear other people's opinions. So thanks for watching and listening. Have a great day.